Rusty, you have a bead on another huge Georgia recruiting weekend coming up with these visits. Staff got a little bit of a week off, but looking ahead, I know it's about a week out now, but this past one set the bar pretty high. What can Georgia fans expect from the talent that will be on campus a week from today?
Well, I'm going to my DawgsHQ thing here, and I go to the website, and it says visits, and you can click on what I love about On3 and the HQ. Even I'm on the mobile right here, and when you hit visits, it comes up, and I love that it shows the date. I mean, you got a little drop down screen for everything, so you can just look on the weekend you want, hit the drop down. But I guess the news today was something that I didn't know: the #1 player in the country for class of 2025. Yeah, just like that, you get that drop down screen. Great shot there, Wes. Elijah Griffin, defensive lineman out of Savannah Christian. He'll be there Thursday. And by him coming Thursday, that tells me he's probably working out. That's not an official visit. That's an unofficial visit because he is a junior, so a rising junior. So the #1 player in the country for 2025 will be there Thursday. And then next Friday, the 2nd, Dylan Raiola returns to make his official visit. So you look Ellis Robinson, Justin Scott, Dylan Stewart, who's the #2 player. For most people, #1 edge guy. Ryan Wingo, 5-star wide receiver. Jarrett Gibson, running back at IMG. I could go on and on and on. I think the interesting one to me is Carter Nelson. And our board asked a couple of questions about this tight end out of Nebraska, 6'4", 220 pounds, from Ainsworth, Nebraska. And when I talked to Sean Callahan, our Nebraska guy for On3, when Sean, who lives in Nebraska, tells me this guy lives in the middle of nowhere, that tells me he lives in the middle of nowhere. Because if somebody else from Nebraska says he lives in the middle of damn nowhere, that is like he's in the middle of the boonies. So, but I will
Ainsworth,
say this,
Nebraska.
Ainsworth, Nebraska. Something tells me
he's out there DDT and corn stalks.
Something tells me they don't have a Walmart. That's my.
This is the photo that comes up on Ainsworth, Nebraska. Just a single house and a tractor.
See there, that tractor. Yeah, that's downtown right there. That's City Hall. So, yeah, man, he is. My goodness. I mean, look at that. Wow.
I mean, what's north of there? What's the state north of there? Is it North Dakota?
Canada.
South Dakota.
South Dakota. Yeah, South Dakota does come before North Dakota.
Yeah, we do have to get. Yeah, okay.
All right, this isn't a map show. All right, this is not about geography, but this is what you're looking at in Ainsworth, Nebraska. Sorry for cutting you off, Rusty. This guy has a lot of time to think about football.
They got an H&R Food Center. I guarantee they got great fries, French fries, and chicken fingers. No doubt.
They got a Roadway Inn. I
guarantee you, Roadway Inn strong too. So I'll say this, he is a guy that Georgia's recruiting. And if Georgia were able to get him, I do think they would make a spot for him for 3 tight ends. They almost tried to do 3 tight ends last class, and they didn't get Deuce Robinson.
Well, they wanted 4. They would have done 4, wouldn't they, with Walker Lyons? And
I don't know. Well, Walker Lyons would have been a 2-year because he.
That's right. Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
It would have been 3. So, I'm not sure they're going to get him. Obviously, Nebraska's a school, but Todd Hartley's been out there twice, and he's coming to make his official. So, a lot of different things. But I mean, that kind of is the pulse of Georgia. That on Thursday, the #1 player in the class of 2025 is just driving up from Savannah. And then the #1 player in the class of 2024 will be back for the 2nd time in 3 weeks. I guess he'll be going. He'll probably come from Nashville, I would imagine, to Atlanta or somewhere close. His official visit won't start until Friday, so we'll have a day to probably mess around in the state of Georgia or wherever he's going to be. But we'll ask him those questions when we get him in person on Tuesday.
Roos pointed it out on Monday night that Andrew Bone had a pretty good zinger after Jaden Riddell committed the other day, and it was hey, look on the bright side, man. Georgia's through recruiting tight ends in this class because they kind of take who they want, but guess they're not. I mean, if they want to try to get Carter Nelson, and the thing is we were talking about kind of the embarrassment of riches last year, and then for lack of a better term, between the NFL draft and transfer portal, the numbers in that room got completely gutted. I mean, they lost 4 guys. And you get the preseason, or you get the spring drills, and Brock Bowers is out for 1 scrimmage, and you've really only got 2 healthy tight ends at that point because Pierce Sperling got hurt. So the numbers can kind of get out of whack on you real quick with this transfer portal thing. So I'm sure that they're trying to, if they feel real good about a guy, they've seen how the position can change and the flexibility of having 2 of those guys on the field at the same time. And not only that, but I'm not saying there's a Brock Bowers out there, but sometimes you just don't quite know what these dudes are capable of until you get them under, your roof and get them working. So I think that, if they can take 3, it might not be a bad idea, because you might be looking at a situation where you lose Bowers this year, Delp next year, and so on.
I mean, look, Bowers sending those.
Go ahead.
Bowers sending those recruiting videos, running in the mountains out there in Napa. This kid could be sending in 8mm film running in the corn stalks. You never know. Sorry, Rusty.
Wes, is it hard to believe that? I was going to ask you a question. Is it hard to believe that Brock Bowers is entering his last year at Georgia? I mean, how fast has this thing went?
I wanted to ask him after G-Day what it felt like to participate in his final G-Day scrimmage, but Jake Rowe advised me against that.
I wouldn't do it. I couldn't let him.
It's flown by.
It's break my heart when he leaves. I've never enjoyed watching a player quite as much as I enjoy. I tell you what, it's been, Joe Burrow was amazing. Joe Burrow is still the best football player I've ever watched with my own 2 eyes at a game. I enjoyed watching Baker Mayfield. There have been a lot of guys I've enjoyed watching over the years, but in terms of a Georgia uniform, number 19 hangs right in there with 27 and 3 for me, for Nick Chubb and Todd Gurley, because he's just, every single time he gets a little bit of space, I'm thinking he's gone. Like he's going to go, because he's so tough to tackle.
He breaks tackles
nonstop.
He breaks tackles too.
Anytime somebody gets him on the ground, like it's only happened, a few times. Anytime somebody is the first person there to get him on the ground, I immediately look up that number, and I'm like, I'm going to keep my eye on him, because I think he's probably a pretty good football player.
He's special, man. And I don't know. I don't know how you can ever hope to replace a guy like that, but he's made his mark as long as he's been here. Back to the Nebraska thing really quick before we address Low Country Dogs and blowing up our comments. I want to show Low Country Dogs some love, asking about Wingo here. If Georgia takes that tight end out of Nebraska, that's going to be on par with some of the things Georgia was doing to some Penn State recruiting classes over the years, just out of nowhere, catching strays from the Dogs. Nebraska people are going to be pretty upset with Kirby Smart. Low Country Dog says, hoping Wingo has an awesome trip. We haven't really talked too much about Wingo, but he is very popular on DawgsHQ message board. And with his visit coming up and Raiola on campus at the same time, that's pretty good fortuitous timing for Georgia fans.
Yeah, and I like to be honest, Wes, and I will be. Right now, it looks like Miami could be a team to watch here seriously with him. This is going to be a big visit for Georgia, obviously with Ryan Wingo and the 5-star wide receiver who's been down already. He'll be back next week. So this thing, you have peaks and valleys in recruitments. I mean, it's just always a little bit here and a little bit there, and you get a team that's a little bit hotter than the other one. But right now, I think this is a really important visit for Georgia with him to see where they can get momentum wise. But I feel certain, you're going to swing for the fences with someone like this. But you also, with Dylan Raiola, I would be, and Ryan Puglisi, I'm going to keep mentioning that with those 2 quarterbacks, I feel like at the end of the day, Georgia is going to have a really, really good group of wide receivers that will sign in December, no matter who it is.
I love this kid's raw ability. I really do. 6'2", 210 pounds that can fly. Those guys just don't grow on trees. They don't. But this cat right here is one of those super high ceiling guys. I'm not sure where his floor is. And, obviously, like Rusty said, you swing for the fences. If you're a Georgia fan, you are super stoked if you get this cat. But I'm very interested to see how the process plays out for him. Simply because, I mean, I look at a Nitro Tuggle and kind of, if you're going to compare them and you're going to maybe give them the same sort of competition that they're up against previously in the film that they've already put up, obviously Tuggle is going to be going up against IMG type of competition. I mean, I don't see a huge difference there. Now, I mean, the industry does, and they get paid to do that. Charles Powers sees a difference in the guys, and I trust Charles' evaluations. But when I look at it with my own two eyes, just looking at film, I think Georgia would be lucky to have him. They would be doing great to have him. But I think they were already off to an incredible start in this wide receiver class, and I know a lot of Georgia fans are wanting that 5-star receiver. They're wanting to prove it to themselves, and that they can bring in that guy. Man, I think with Nikar and Nitro Tuggle in the fix already, in the fold already, I think they've got some guys that are really good players.
Yeah, there's some dudes. And then before we move on, Ben Beerup. Ben wants to know, is Elijah Griffin visiting just to meet Dylan Raiola before the official start, Rusty?
No, I mean, that's not going to hurt, but Elijah's he's a 2025 D lineman. He's not going to be catching balls from Raiola. He's not going to be, on goal line.
Hey, I will
say, Jonah Joseph Ajanye, Joseph Jonah Ajanye did mention, that was one of the things he brought up to me when we talked was, I asked him about the highlights of the visit, and he was like, yeah, I got to hang out with some of the guys. I got to meet Dylan Raiola. That quarterback, the number one player in the country. So, that there is some cachet there.
That 2024.
Yeah.
2024 where
it also depends on the guy.
Everybody.
Yeah. It also depends on the guy too. Some of these guys will come in and they kind of look at every guy as like, oh, well, that's the number one player from this previous year's class, and whatever. It's a little, I don't know. It just all depends on the personality. If you're kind of one of these gregarious guys that likes to meet other, top, prospects and rub elbows, you probably enjoyed it.